Dan Lanning has earned a $2 million a year extension. And man, I don't think that there's anybody that can complain about this. And frankly, I am wowed by Oregon getting this done at the time that they did, knowing what it looks like they're going to accomplish in the next 2, 3, or even this year. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I'm not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. And if you like the show, join the 131,000 subscribers to the show by hitting that little button that says subscribe, like the video, and answer this question in the comments below. Do you think that Dan Lanning should be one of the top 5 highest paid coaches in the sport according to publicly available information? Now, there were actually quite a few dudes that were making double digits going into 2025, right? Ryan Day got his extension and raise to $12.5 per year, $12.5 million. Kirby Smart makes the most of anybody, right? About $13 million per year, right? Dabo Swinney makes a little bit more than $11 million per year. But then Mike Norvell, who had perhaps the worst season Florida State has ever had, all things considered, also making double digits, 10 mil, right? We think that Lincoln Riley is making about that much. And on it goes. Steve Sarkisian got a raise. And I think perhaps Steve Sarkisian might be looking around and going, wait a second. Why am I the guy bringing up the end of this thing? And I think there's a lot of reasons that may be true or not true, depending on how you want to look at this. I think Steve Sarkisian has prized keeping his assistants and keeping that staff intact. And you can see that, right? He's got 7-figure position coaches working for him. And I think knowing what he has accomplished in the past, knowing what he wants to do at Texas, he is willing to say, hey, look, we got to put a little bit more in the assistant pool and a little bit more in our name, image, and likeness collective if we want to compete for a national championship. We see where we are weakest, and we see where other teams have been able to beat us, and it's just here and there. Same thing is true of Oregon. Oregon was the #1 ranked team in the country last year for a really, really long time. Basically, since beating Ohio State, there was nobody that was within shouting distance of them. We had all agreed that's the #1 team in the country. And then they got drug into something like the deep water by Penn State. They end up winning the Big Ten championship, and then they get the bye. Next time we see Oregon playing football is against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and they got boat raced. They got absolutely demolished by the Ohio State Buckeyes, and the Buckeyes go on to win the national championship. But you're also looking around and seeing that your competitors have seen how closely they can get to playing for the national championship, and they have acted accordingly. Penn State loses Tom Allen, goes to get Jim Knowles from Ohio State, keeps Katron Allen, keeps Nick Singleton, keeps Dennis Denai Sutton, keeps Andy Kotelnicki, decides that they're going to go with Drew Aller, right? Trying to fortify Penn State because they realize that even with the loss to Oregon and the loss to Ohio State, they made the Final Four and were basically a picked pass away from being able to play for the national championship for the first time in the 20th century, quite frankly. 21st century, excuse me. Then we're looking around and we see, oh yeah, Notre Dame played in the national championship game, and they did it primarily without a passing game. Like, it still boggles my mind to think about this, but Jaden Greathouse became the first guy with 100 yards receiving at Notre Dame all year in the playoffs, guys. In the playoffs. That means Riley Leonard and the run game were the offense, right? That's it. That's what they were doing. They were playing outstanding defense. And then you looked at up and down the Big Ten, where Oregon is playing ball and where they are the defending champs, and you go, okay, are we going to get that much better than Ohio State right now? Are we going to get that much better than Illinois, who's on a charge? Penn State, I mentioned, right? We know that Michigan probably feels better about this year than they did last year. And you look around the country, what other people are doing. What is the thing that has made us so good? And it's Dan Lanning. Stan Lanning, at 38 years old, one of the 5 highest paid college football coaches in America. That's wild. That's truly wild. It was a big deal when Steve Spurrier and Nick Saban were making 7 figures for the first time around 2000. Now to look and see guys that aren't yet 40 are bringing in this kind of loot is remarkable. But it also speaks to what Oregon knows they have in Dan Lanning. A guy that other people want, which raises your price, makes yesterday's price is not today's price. But you also got, I think, a head coach who moves a lot like Tech 9, dog. Like, he out here letting everybody know what it's going to be and how he going to do it. Like I ain't, right? That man is unafraid to get dirty. That man is unafraid to push the limits of the rules. He is looking for every single advantage he can get. I call it spotting market inefficiencies. Where do we see some value that can be created where other people may not have looked or overlooked? Sometimes it's in special teams, like kicking a football directly into the face of an Ohio State Buckeye and then recovering that kick, right? Those sorts of things. Trying to play games with clock management. Trying to find ways to throw guys off. I also think it's really important to note here that part of this is keeping Will Stein, offensive coordinator at Oregon, who I think is the best offensive coordinator who had not been a head coach yet and is waiting, I think, for the right opportunity to come around, but also would like to do what I think Dan Lanning has been paid this $11 million to do. It is to go win the national championship for the first time in Oregon history. That's what this is about. And you got to do that now with a new quarterback, Dante Moore, we think, right? I think people are going to find out that Mekhi Hughes was killing people at Tulane, if they don't already. DeCorian Moore is going to add some really great substance to that wide receiving core. Evan Stewart is back. Defensively, Dylan Thieneman might be the best defensive back in the Big Ten this side of Caleb Downs, right? You're adding Bear Alexander. You're going to be good, right? Let's also ensure that when we get to be good, that nobody is thinking twice about trying to come get our coach because we don't pay him enough, and the buyout's still the buyout, $20 million, okay? I really like where Oregon sits right now. I think that they have an opportunity to be good, especially in a league that's going to have, I believe, 13 new starters at quarterback. Like, that's wild. They're one of them, right? But we're getting to Michigan State, Nebraska, USC, which, you know, you can take or leave if you want, Rutgers, maybe, nope, not maybe, Penn State, and then Illinois as guys that going to have guys returning. We don't really think that that's going to figure into the math about who wins the national championship or who figures into winning the Big Ten championship. We think that everybody's got a guy in the top half of the Big Ten that can go play, right away. And some have impressed us in ways that I didn't expect to be impressed. Northwestern pulled Preston Stone out of the portal from SMU. That dude can spin it. Talked about Dante Moore many times on this show. I really like Dante Moore. The tools are all there. There is the maturity there because it wasn't there at UCLA, but he was also having to start as a true freshman in the middle of the year for Chip Kelly, who was on his way out and ends up being the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. I thought it was more telling that he didn't want to follow Chip Kelly over there. And I get it. You know, Julian Sands there at the time, Aaron Nolan, Devin Brown as well. You look up and down, you're also seeing where can we create an advantage. That's the other thing that I was thinking about. In COVID, I'm doing this show, and there are lots of people that have bigger, say, huge budgets. My budget is shoestring. Have massive budgets that do not know how to shoot and make a show out of their homes, okay? Out of a smaller space. So I see that and I don't say, okay, come to me. I start revving up, right? I make more content. I give you more things to choose from. And in that way, it's able to catch the eye of Fox Sports and we have this show here now. Being able to do that and being willing to do that are not the same thing. And that's the reason why I think you're seeing a 38-year-old making $11 million to be a head coach at Oregon, and you're seeing other older head coaches going, I don't really like this college football. Yeah, dog, because you got to still work at it. It's always changing. It's always evolving. If you aren't willing to get up and go chase it, it's time for you to go do something else. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Many head coaches of a certain age have earned that. You've got enough money to retire. You don't have to do this anymore. But if you have to do it because there's something you have yet to do, then you got to get up and chase it. I'm in that boat. I turned 38 this year. There's a lot left in media, in sports media, that I have not done and I would like to do. But earlier last year, I won a national championship. I got that 100,000 subscriber plaque behind me because you guys like the show. That's what we're chasing here. Even in March, even when it feels like there aren't enough people that care about college football now to be making this sort of content, I'm going to make it because you're here and you're watching. And we're going to continue to build. And by the time we get that back to August, ooh, baby, we on and popping once again because we got Ohio State and Texas, right? We got LSU and Clemson. We've got some babies coming up that we going to get to see. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited that we about to get crunk. And Oregon might be at the front of the line. Like, caller number one. Yeah, this Dominique from Shady Low Trader Park. What's up, Dominique? I want to hear that new champ from 20 years ago, Petey Pilo. Dog. Matter of fact, I should go call her now that we talk about Freak League.